this meeting of the Hudson River Regulating District to order. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Just because it was hit.
We roll call.
Mr. Chairman. David Bergstresser.
Here.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
Mark Finkel.
Here.
Thomas Stover.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hudson.
Here.
Richard Ferrara. Here.
Thank you. All right, I need a motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda. I would at this time like to ask for a motion to revise the agenda to reflect an executive session to discuss litigation and the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement.
I'll second.
Could I have one other item?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, a resolution to, proposed resolution to retain a consulting firm for insurance and risk management.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we'll put that under contracts as B.
All right, so we'll also add the proposal for
Risk insurance contract.
the risk insurance cover. So we'll include that, want to include that in your motion, Mr. Stowe?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just include both in the motion.
So that was, the motion was made by Mrs. Stover,
Seconded by Mr. Frankel,
Mr. Finkel.
and approved unanimously by the four of us. Aye.
Very good.
At this time, actually, I'd like to go into executive motion right now to discuss these items. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Chairman, we could just have senior staff.
Yeah, just senior staff for the time being. All right, so we're back in session.
10:55.
Would anyone from the audience care to speak?
You guys do it? You got anything to say?
No.
Okay, thanks. I am. All right, we need approval of the June 11th board minutes. I'd like to make note that I'd like the board minutes to, after I look at them, to include a recitation of the board's instruction for the staff in executive session to bring back 3 employees, with at least 2 of them to be employed on July 11th. And unfortunately, the timing of the meetings, moving it, has interfered with this. All right, and we're going to bring them back in light of the retirement of Black River Administrator and also meteorological incidents, all that range, showed me that we've been working the skeleton crew for too long, and kind of rolling the dice, and it then has become a public safety issue.
We can modify the minutes.
So I'd like to include that, if I could, in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. So I need approval along with the modification of the main board minutes from June 11th.
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, let's go to the Executive Director's report. Fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 24. It has been another busy month for many reasons. Much of my activities in the past month have centered around personnel, and to that end, personnel and also daily conversations with the chief engineer about the hydrology. It's been in June and July have been interesting, to say the least. And I would also report that up front, yesterday and today is the Adirondack Challenge from Governor Cuomo, and Rob Fulton and myself have worked pretty closely with DEC and the town and the rafting companies to make sure that there was adequate water and then some to make the rafting a success. From the sounds of it, I guess yesterday was. It involved a lot of phone calls, and that started at 10 o'clock yesterday morning and went till 9 o'clock last night. And several gate changes. As a matter of fact, our administrator, Mr. Hudson, had to, at the spur of the moment, drop what he was doing yesterday and shoot to Indian Lake to make the gate adjustment. The second one of the day, and we had to make another one later that evening. I don't remember whether it was somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock. So it involved a bit of maneuvering, but essentially what we were doing, the regulating district, was to keep the level more or less stable within a small range in Lake Abenaki, so that they can make the big releases into the Indian River and of course down the Hudson. There's a second day going on now. We're doing a little bit more of the same, and I would offer the board that after the meeting, if anybody's interested, I know everybody's seen the Indian Lake Dam on Big Indian Lake, but I don't know that we've all gone as a group over to Lake Abenaki, which is immediately downstream from our dam, and it receives all the water that we send it. Might be an interesting little side trip. It's real quick, and it's just off of Route 30 on the north side by probably 3/4 of a mile or a mile.
I'd like to.
I would say that for the extra 10 minutes, it's worth the side trip after the meeting if anybody's interested.
Okay.
Also, as I mentioned a minute ago, much of my month was spent with personnel and dealing with personnel. Carol Wright, the Black River Area Administrator, did retire on July 13th, which was a Saturday. That was her official date of retirement. I had hoped that we would have this meeting prior to her departure. Her efforts are going to be missed, and I will say that in meeting with Mr. Hodgson and myself, met with the employees after the Monday following her retirement. She did have things well organized, and they're running like clockwork. Procedures are in place, and that type of management will make it easier for us to pick up where she left off. Also, as you had noted, more on personnel, you had noted that as the board directed me at the June meeting, as I was directed in an executive session, per your direction, we did bring 2 employees back to work in the Hudson River area. They were employees that were laid off in May of 2010. One, Cheryl, the new name I can...
Jakewish.
Jakewish, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I always remember tall ones.
Yeah.
And also, David Aielli, Cheryl is Senior Administrative Assistant. Her duties will largely in Albany, but also will a percentage of her time, depending on the week, depending on the time of year, will also be spent at the Sacandaga Field Office. That will be a tremendous help. It will be a tremendous help to Mr. Hodgson, and a help to everybody when our administrative assistant's out of the office now. So it definitely will streamline or make our operations more efficient. We have for the board's consideration also 2 resolutions. One to recall Cheryl Jaquish as a senior administrative assistant to the Hudson River area. And the second one is to recall David Ioli as a maintenance specialist. I didn't get to complete my thought on Dave. He was also laid off in May of 2010. Maintenance specialist, worked out of the Sacandaga field office. And the addition or the adding back of Mr. Ioli's skills will also help streamline things at the field office. As a maintenance specialist, many times, I mean, traditionally in the summer, they would have spent a lot of their time with erosion control work, but it goes a lot further than that. Many times they'll lend their hands to the field assistants, which is another much needed area. They can help with surveying, any number of things. Maintenance, there will still be erosion control work done later in the season as the water, is dropped more towards the fall elevations. And those efforts also free up the administrator to do more of what an administrator does. Because for a period of time he was spending, I would say 30% of his time doing the work of field assistants and others, and that becomes cumbersome after a while. The addition of these two employees that are being recalled, it will be a significant help. I think I've said it many times that I don't expect that the regulating district as a whole will ever get back all the employees we lost. And I don't know that we need to get everybody back to have a smoothly running organization. If anything good came out of the last 3 years, number one, it certainly helped us to identify areas where we can streamline, mainly because we're forced to streamline. And I think things are running as efficiently as they probably as they ever have, if not more so. So, as I said, there are two resolutions, proposed resolutions before the board for those recalled employees. Additionally, there are two more resolutions that I present to, with cover memos, that I present to the board for their consideration. And they're promotional in nature. Since we are recalling a maintenance specialist, I am asking the board to consider the promotion of Randy Palmetier to foreman in the Hudson River area. And also, I'm asking the board to consider the promotion of Stephanie Rosicky to senior field assistant in the Hudson River area. I believe that both of those promotions are warranted. I don't have the memo immediately in front of me, and I can tell you how many years of service they have.
That's all right.
I know that Mrs. Rosicky has 13 or 14 years of service and has been with the regulating district that long. Has proven her worth in the field and also proven to be very well organized and multi-talented. A real benefit to the regulating district, especially with the limited staffing we've got. Also, Randy Palmetier has been with the district more than 10 years.
13.
About the same?
13.
Okay. And he was laid off for a short period of time, for a few months, until the retirement of the previous foreman from the regulating district. And I asked the board to consider these promotions. Specifically, I don't see my memo in front of me, but essentially, I do see my memo, thank the in terms of the financials, Randy Palmetier would go to the next step up on the schedule. And Mrs. Rosicky is at service rate, so she would just realize a one-time stipend for the promotion.
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah.
No, I think you covered it.
All right.
All right. So I have a resolution to recall Cheryl Jaquish, a senior administrative assistant in the general board area of the Hudson River, Black River Regulating District. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Hayes.
Have a second? Mr. Stover?
Mr. Stover.
Okay, first, motion and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And this is effective July 11th. Okay, I just want to make note of that. Now I have another resolution to recall David Ioli as maintenance specialist in the Hudson River area of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District, again as of July 11th. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Finkel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, now I have another resolution to approve the promotion of Randy Palmetier to foreman in the Hudson River area of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District. I assume this is, I don't see it. Oh, okay. As of July 22nd?
Yeah, the payroll that would encompass that pay.
Okay, so that pay period. All right, so do I have a motion?
No.
Mr. Finkel, do I have a second? Mr. Stover?
Mr. Finkel, Mr. Stover.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Lastly, I have a resolution to approve the promotion of Stephanie Rosicky to senior field assistant in the Hudson River area of the regulating district. As, I assume,
That would
Same
be,
pay period.
again, because it's
Oh, that's a
a
one-time
stipend,
stipend.
so
okay, so there's no date.
it'll be processed as soon as possible.
Thank you. All right, a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Hayes.
Second?
Mr. Finkel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Housekeeping down there. Anything else? Mr. Clark? You done?
I'm done with my report, yes.
Okay. All right. So let's move. Contracts.
Actually,
What do you want to?
I would, there's other matters to consider, but before we get into that, I wanted to inform the board that General Counsel, myself, and the CFO had conducted collective bargaining negotiations with the CSEA unit, and we have a proposed settlement of contract, which, in terms of which the board should have seen, and I wanted to, wanted to inform you of that now.
Okay. I think what I'd like to do, I'll table that, and we'll go into an executive session towards the end of at the end of the meeting to discuss it, and then when we come out, we'll vote on it. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it then.
Right? Okay.
So now we're in contracts?
No, unless,
Well, there is a, board should also have a resolution, or a proposed resolution to approve a 13th Amendment to the retainer agreement for legal services. in connection with ongoing litigation with Erie Boulevard and Niagara Mohawk.
This
Power
is
Corporation.
just an extension of existing?
Yes,
Okay.
this case is ongoing.
Going.
If- NIMO every year serves us
Okay.
with a new assessment challenge,
Right.
new Article 78. And with that, they also serve a notice of intention to file a claim with the Court of Claims
Mhm.
and an administrative complaint challenging the apportionment upon which the assessment is based. Although they claim it's an assessment challenge.
Right.
In any case, this year they have filed the administrative complaint, but have not yet filed the Article 78 challenging the Black River assessment, nor the notice of intention to file a claim with the Court of Claims. So, while this resolution to approve a 13th Amendment to the retainer agreement will just extend the retainer agreement out for another year, we'll be coming back in September, in all likelihood, to amend this same retainer agreement to include the new
Yeah.
case, which I expect to be filed within the next several days.
There are 13 of them pending?
There's 23.
23?
Because they filed in the Hudson River area
Mhm.
and the Black River area from 2000 to 2010.
Okay.
And since 2010, have only filed in the Black River area because the Hudson River area apportionment, when it changed, dropped Niagara Mohawk as a beneficiary
All right.
because they didn't fit in the new paradigm of the reapportionment.
Got it.
But they're still in the Black River area portion, which is from quite some time ago. I want to say 80 years ago. I don't
And,
have the date
and
on
the
the
reason
top
why
of my head.
nobody ever deals with this is just tack it on to the next one,
The,
or the existing?
the simple answer I can offer, not in executive session, is that there are several cases involving Niagara Mohawk.
Okay,
This set of state cases are pending
on something else.
in both Herkimer County and Hamilton County, both of which are being heard by a judge in Fulton County. That judge has put his decision on hold pending resolution of a federal court challenge pending the Northern District of New York, U.S. District Court of Northern District of New York, which challenged the same assessment scheme, but also challenged a number of constitutional, there are a number of constitutional claims in that assessment challenge. The federal court case has been ongoing for several years. It got through the district court. We won in the district court. It went up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. At the Second Circuit, the court affirmed most of the ruling, but indicated that the district court should have heard the federal court challenges on the constitutional issues. Those are currently pending, and we're resolving discovery, getting ready to resolve hopefully those cases this fall. Once those are resolved, we can come back and resolve the state court cases.
Okay.
That was the
And there's-
short version?
Yeah.
There's also an Onondaga case, which is also on hold pending the resolution of the Fulton County
Okay.
judge's decision. So
It's a house of cards.
it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the effort.
But in any case, we have Brown and Weinrod representing us, and basically the contract's run its course. We need to extend it another year or two.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the 13th Amendment contract, C 022004.
So moved.
All right,
Mr. Hayes,
have a second?
Mr. Stover.
Stover. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Extend the contract. All right, why don't we What else do we have?
So next we
What's the
have, based on the revising the agenda, we have a proposed resolution authorizing me as Chief Fiscal Officer to retain a consulting firm for insurance and risk management services. Quick memo here.
We just-
Lay it out.
We discussed it the last meeting.
Yeah, briefly.
Okay.
And here's the resolution.
Oh,
Resolution. Mr. Hayes. And then the contract, which further describes the services, which are not really that complicated. Compass Company is the firm I'm suggesting and recommending to the board that we retain. Compass has provided this service in the past, most recently through, back in January 2005 through 2006.
Right.
They do two things. They, number one, and I think most importantly, they arrange to solicit the insuring companies, like Cool Insuring, who we currently have in place. Very important that we get back on a track to do that during our 3-year budget cycles. The reason we didn't continue to do that was funding, for the most part.
Right.
And Cool Insuring has clearly demonstrated that they get it, they have the underwriters, so on and so forth, but doesn't mean we shouldn't go out there.
Okay.
The other thing they do is they give us ongoing risk management assessment. We're pretty static, so we have facilities, blah, 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 but they understand that changing market, the underwriters who can basically, take the risk to protect and cover and provide the insurance for any issues with the structures. So the resolution really says it's for, I believe it's 12,500, but 7,000 of that is the one-time fee to perform the solicitation. Their ongoing fee generally is $5,500 annually. So this one will just be for the first year. It's not going to begin, however, until, although they'll start the solicitation process probably early next year. They are not going to solicit anybody to replace or possibly replace Cool until the July 1, 2014 year. Cool has already been informed of this, they understand it, they will clearly participate. Again, we'll make every effort to seek MWBE firms if
Sure.
they exist, and so on and so forth.
So,
I
okay,
offer
thanks.
this to the board.
I just got confused, I just went through this with another board, I said,
This is another
Yeah.
necessary evil.
Yep. All right, so, any questions?
No questions.
All right, so I need a motion for the resolution to authorize the regulating district to retain a consulting firm for insurance and risk management services. Mr. Finkel?
Mr. Finkel,
Have a second?
That's second.
Mr. Hayes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hire the risk management service.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's the last contract? I haven't got any other here in front of me.
I think that's the last
So we're up to staff committee.
Okay, general counsel's report.
one. My report starts on page 25 of the board packet. I'd like to confirm Albany County has paid their 2012-13 assessment of $1,034,698.
All right.
I'm sure Rick will also steal, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. That's perfectly all right.
That's all right, you can repeat it.
NYMO, on the other hand, has failed to pay its 9/10, 10/11, 11/12 Black River area assessments on parcels 6A and 26, covering 4 different tax map numbers. We did get a payment from them in early 2013 regarding the 12/13 assessment on these same parcels.
Really?
Which seemed kind of odd. We have been trying to get Jefferson County to address the NYMO non-payment, and they have essentially refused to talk to us. And we filed a Freedom of Information request.
Really?
We have conferred with the Attorney General on our next moves. I'm not entirely sure where we're gonna go. But
What are our options?
it's a significant chunk of change out there. It really depends on what they have done.
Okay.
If they have initiated a foreclosure, but then withdrawn these parcels from that foreclosure action, we can have the board execute a resolution or pass a resolution which will compel the county to recommence.
Okay.
If they haven't taken any action at this point, we can bring an Article 78 to get an order of mandamus to compel them to bring an action. To be quite honest, the simplest thing is talk to us.
Right.
Pick up the phone, answer the phone when we call,
Mm-hmm.
and let's find out where we are and
Or
how
what
we're
we
gonna
do
move
about it.
forward. This is, it's not their money that's not being paid, it's NIMO's money that's
Right.
not being paid. NIMO, who, as you
Mhm.
recently heard, is,
Yeah.
no compunction against suing us repeatedly. So
So that's where it stands.
that's where it stands.
Okay.
As far as the other litigation facing the Red Lake District, we do have one other thing that I want to talk about, but I think we ought to do that in the
Okay.
executive session. Other than that, I'm open for questions if anybody has any.
Not at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr. Farrar?
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
my report begins on page 25. And that's not true, it actually begins on 33.
Talk about
And I'll
stuff.
focus on my summary report. As Mr. Leslie mentioned, we did, on the receipts front, we have an amount due now from Albany County for their current assessment, so that brings all the county past due and all the current assessments up to date. So the only thing out there right now are the assessments that we mailed for this past July 1. And none of those have been currently paid, and I don't expect to see any payment for any of those until probably October 31st. Noteworthy disbursements, we have paid to Saratoga County the $500,000 lump sum pursuant to the consent agreement, and that basically satisfies the district's obligation to reduce that past due tax payable to Saratoga County for fiscal years 09 through 12, and then there'll be a final lump sum payment scheduled on or about June 30th, 2015, which is the end of our current 3-year cycle. Couple other items, EJ West, the reservoir operating agreement, contract, the adjustment, annual adjustment of 3% did happen. We always monitor that just to make sure they don't just continue to pay us. So that monthly payment is now up to $95,193. And there's also, during this period, we have our independent auditor scheduled to come in August, week of, I believe, I think I put it on here, I believe the third week of August. There's a lot of preliminary stuff that we need to provide, which we are currently gathering, some stuff we've already provided. It's one of the reasons why you don't see the financial summary, because we really haven't closed June, so we want to give you something up to date. And on the compliance reporting side, this is the season of the series of Paris reports that are due on 9/30, September 30th, and the data request is the largest of those reports, and that is something we compile actually almost in parallel with the independent audit, because there's a lot of similar information that needs to be provided. And just one small item, not small, but just a network item. We're currently starting a PC upgrade initiative. Many of the machines that folks are currently using were purchased back in 2006. They are clearly off any schedule of replacement that you could Google.
So we're
Generally,
looking at
4 or 5 years, we're now getting out 7 and 8. And the problem is, the new server we have does not like XP. XP is a wonderful, it's worked, it's served its time.
Okay.
In these new network environments, you need Windows 7, so that's principally the reason why we need to get off these machines.
Okay.
Many of them still run pretty well, but they're just, one day, you just don't know, plus all the warranties that expire. And that is my report. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I have none.
Oh, thank you. Chief Engineer's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report begins on page 56. As you, I'm sure you've noticed through the years, the report is always prepared in the middle of the month in anticipation of the upcoming month. So those totals for precipitation inflow are a little bit dated, and I'll actually refer to give you an idea of how it's changed for the month of June. I'm going to refer to the quarterly report that we put together, and we'll be able to see some of the differences actually in precipitation in the Hudson River area. Finished the month of June actually ranging from 199% to 258% of historic average. And we had at Great Sacandaga Lake 292% of historic average inflow for the month of June. And 243% at Indian Lake.
But there was no flooding downstream.
But there was no flooding downstream.
Thank
you. We came close to, up to the spillway by the, pretty much by the first week in July, but yeah, we managed to get through and come back down at those reservoirs. So certainly GSL within 9/10 of a foot now of the target elevation. Similar situation in the Black River area for the end of the month of June. We had a range of precipitation of 167 to 199%, with 220% of historic average inflow. Interestingly enough, you recall it was pretty dry. When you look at the 6-month average for all of our reservoirs and watershed, we're average for the 6-month year to date.
Really?
Yeah. So, while the extremes may be extreme, more extreme, things are definitely still averaging out even over the 6-month period. So it really hasn't affected us that significantly, I guess. On reservoir operation item, I did hand out a memorandum following up on our concrete repair at the Stillwater Dam, the gate outlet activity. I remember back in December 2012, the board had authorized staff to solicit bids for the repair of the outlet structures themselves, the outlet, concrete outlet below the 5 gates that are at Stillwater Dam. And we did solicit bids and have more than 100 firms, which we typically do when we work through the state contract reporter. Those aren't all engineering or excuse me, construction firms. They could be any number of firms, including engineering or re-advertising. I think that happens quite a bit. But we did end up having 3 firms who bid the project, and their bids are summarized in the table in my memo. They range from $178,710 to $247,757. Quite a range, and certainly more expensive than what we had anticipated. I did bring some photos as I go on to discuss it. We'll have to pass those out. These are photographs of the inside of the concrete outlets of the 5 gates, 4 outlets. Gate 1 and 2 are smaller gates, and they're combined. To give you an idea of the condition, in light of the expense, the bid expense, and I will say that we had estimated in the neighborhood of $70,000 anticipated for this work. I think there are a couple different factors. Access is fairly tough. I think probably material costs are really starting to impact some of the work too. So, and it may be that the group of bidders clearly knew who they're going up against and how limited the number of bids might have been, so that can certainly influence bidding. But our need to develop a plan was in response to a FERC comment and recommendation. And their recommendation was to come up with a plan to monitor and repair. So I think in light of the cost and the condition, which you can see in those photos, there is some deterioration. But that's deterioration that's really occurred over more than 80 years time. Some of that is only the very, basically the paste, basically the cement paste on top of the concrete that's come off, exposing that first layer of aggregate, and nothing more over 80 years of use. The first 60 years, 50 years, probably extensive use. The hydro plant at Stillwater wasn't operating at that time. And so most of the discharges were made from the gates. And since about 1985, the majority of releases are made through the hydro plant. So the gates are used far less frequently. And with the exception of the very end of those concrete tunnels, tubes, if you will, the concrete is, I believe, in fairly good shape. But as a result of the bids, I think the appropriate move would be to, and it would be in keeping with FERC's requests too, is that we develop a monitoring plan. We take some core samples of the concrete, we run some tests on them to confirm what I think we already know based on observation, and that hopefully we'll find that the concrete is in fairly good condition, other than that exposed aggregate, that it has some decent strength and ability to resist the weathering that may continue to see, and as a result, not make any of the repairs, and actually our recommendation, the engineering recommendation, is to reject the bids and not to award the work. Certainly not as we had entered into this solicitation. And there might be some patching, I think we might look at that we could reach just from the outside with our staff, the confined space in small areas. The need to de-water was a difficulty that led us away from using our own staff. But I think we can, at least toward the end where it's fairly accessible, actually by standing, because there's a lip, an apron on the outside, we could make some of the repairs in the most deteriorated area, which is the last foot or so of those outlets. And then in the meantime, work off a monitoring plan, and hopefully find that through the tests of the concrete that the structure is fairly sound, and said probably not weathering much more than it has over the 80 years, which in most cases wasn't that significant. So our recommendation, as I say, is that the board reject the bids and make no award of the contract. Yeah.
Okay.
only other,
Do you want them to,
I would.
Make a
just
motion
be a
now
by
for that,
motion.
or-
You can do a motion, but I'm not sure.
All right, look for a motion to accept or reject the,
Reject the bid.
reject the bids as stated by the chief engineer. Okay. All in favor?
but specifically to
Specifically to
reject?
reject the bids, yes, I'm sorry.
So a motion to
Reject
reject
the
all
bids.
bids for the Stillwater Dam Gate Outlet concrete repair
Right.
project.
Yeah.
First was, so we need someone to make.
Mr. Finkel?
Mr. Finkel?
And Mr. Stover.
Mr. Stover.
Yeah, you took it away.
And the vote was unanimous.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
The only other item I had was kind of result of at least, well, one call that I received has to do with Sixth Lake and Seventh Lake. Had some interest by a resident to make some repairs on structures out on the water,
On their personal structure.
on their personal
Yeah.
property. And, obviously our first response is that, for one individual making significant change, that not likely going to occur since it's not consistent with how we need to operate the reservoir. But we have in the past, I think 2001 or 2, when we had our own need, we made a drawdown a little bit earlier in the year, or a more significant drawdown. And I know that a lot of the residents took advantage of that opportunity. So, after consulting a little bit with the executive director on this, I thought we might suggest the concept of a few weeks earlier drawdown at Sixth Lake and Old Forge, if after some public discussion, and it's fairly short notice because it would be, the timing of it would be mid-September rather than the more recent being the last 10 years or so, that we would wait, we would have extended the season, if you will, at Sixth and Seventh Lake, and not started the drawdown until sometime first or second week in October, usually coincide with the rafting event that occurs, so that we have that water moving out of Sixth Lake and into Old Forge, where we use it to supply those rafters sometime around Columbus Day weekend. But historically, and you can see that actually in my report, on my report page, page 9, and I don't know about page
64?
64.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We have extended, I said, until the second week in October, which relative to historic average, it's quite a few weeks later than normal. So, our thought was that if folks around 6 and 7 Lake, more than just a single resident, wanted to take advantage of a little bit earlier drawdown, I think we could accommodate them if we had a consensus from the residents. We would probably make an advertisement, local newspaper, whatever media that we possibly could, see if we might hold a meeting with the residents, probably sometime in August, and then go from there based on general,
It would
what they
complicate
thought.
the efforts for rafting in October again, though. I mean, if that.
We would still have the water available through Old Forge.
Forge.
Yeah. It just became a matter of convenience to release at the same time. It also it didn't seem to make sense to benefit those recreating on Old Forge and then draw down Sixth Lake 3 weeks before Old Forge started having its drawdown. So we, since about 2001, been drawing them down together.
Well, the other thing, where I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
I'm thinking out loud.
Right.
maybe one thing to consider is just if we were to accommodate and there was enough interest with homeowners on 6th and 7th, you know, don't, I mean, essentially what you're talking about is 2 or 3 weeks in advance. I mean, compress the window some. Look, folks, if you want to get it done, we'll move up the schedule
Here's our
for
target date.
drawdown, but it's not gonna be, you know, you're not gonna have 4 weeks to do it. You're gonna have 10 days or, you know, pick a number.
Right.
I mean, you might be able to do it and compress the schedule and, you know, I mean, see who's interested first, really.
Yeah, we could drop down more rapidly, you know, there's a combination. We could drop down to the same rate and just start it closer to the historic date. And really, the drawdown historically has been about the second week in September. So even if we started 2 weeks earlier than we have over the last 10 or 11 years, it's still 2 to 3 weeks later than it has been historic. So it's for me, that it felt like it was a good compromise. I mean, there are folks who still use the late September for business purposes. You know, you have the plane that takes off out of the lake, and they tend to.
Well, the marinas that, you know, fine.
So, certainly we wouldn't, you know, we based solely on, really on what the consensus of the residents, and I think there's a homeowners association up there also,
Probably.
that we could get in touch with, who could contact a lot of them. So, that would probably cover a large portion of those folks who would otherwise take advantage of something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
So if you think that
I don't
might
see
be a
any
good
problem.
idea, at least to entertain some comments from them, we would,
Sure, why not? Good PR.
all right.
I don't have any problem with it. And you never know. Could be snowing anyway, but middle of September.
Well, this might help them out,
Mhm.
get their projects, get their concrete in before the snow
Right.
flies the first week in October.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. I don't have anything else, but I'd be glad to take any questions.
I don't have any rain. There's a lot of rainfall.
Doing a good job, Rob.
Thank you.
I'm pretty involved with Herkimer County, and they would have appreciated a little bit better control of the Mohawk River.
Oh, yeah. They had a lot of rain
Yes, they
in
did.
the Mohawk River Valley.
Oh, they got hit hard. Okay. Doc, I assume we're gonna do the Hudson River, Black River Administrative Report.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's all we ask.
My report starts on page 82. A couple things. We brought in a contractor on site over to what we call our access road at Sacandaga Field Office. And Niagara Mohawk went around the lake in different areas and removed a lot of trees that were endangering power lines. And they asked us if we wanted the timber off of that, and we said we did, so we stockpiled it over there. And we went and got a contractor that come in and cut all the logs up for us, and we got dimensional lumber stacked up over there that we can use for whatever we need. And we also have signboards that we make up that go all around the lake that we use, and stakes and permit stakes and stuff like that. So we had it all milled up. It cost us like $1,000.
Log booms.
And we made log booms.
So it was a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, so we probably got over 2 years now stockpile for signboards and stakes, dimensional lumber, and spare log booms now, which was a good savings.
That's great.
We're hoping they're going to do some more cutting, and we'll continue with them efforts and doing that, so I want to bring that to your attention.
Good.
The other thing with bringing back personnel is already lightened up my load at SFO. There's some nice changes that have already taken place there with the shop and the maintenance and helping out at Conklin. So it's really within a little over a week I see results already. So
Good.
and
You're not ready to launch the work boat now,
no, we're not quite there yet. and taking on as acting Black River Area Administrator. The only way I can do this job, or Hudson River and Black River, is the confidence and the expertise that I have on staff in both areas is what allows me to have that flexibility and do that, because they're like a well-oiled machine, they know everything, and more or less they'll be teaching me up there the reins for a while. But I don't have the Black River Area
I didn't expect you to.
report, but I'm sure it's in the packet. I did meet, Mike and I did meet with staff there last week and went over quite a few things, and we went over some projects that are possibly coming up and how we're gonna approach it, and so had a good meeting with everybody.
Good.
That's all. Oh, the other thing I have is, real quick, is the docks that we talked about.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody had any input from the last meeting or any changes. All we're really looking to do, and I'll give you another copy of these, is to allow, or take away the flotation and allow a rolling dock.
Sure. Which you don't.
You mean only on rolling docks, I just want to clarify.
Right, only on rolling docks.
Allow
The other
rolling
docks
docks
will have
without flotation.
And it just gives the people out there more of
More flexibility to
a
get.
little flexibility, and they're out there already.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do my copy? That's the 10 footers and it's 20 meters.
Yeah, I don't.
No, so.
What do you need from us? I mean, I'll go on your recommendation.
I think we just need something, the board approving the new dock. Mike can jump in on the.
Does it have to be official?
Right.
You just need a blessing, or?
The original motion, or the original documents that are going to be modified
Right.
herein, I think were adopted by motion of the board. They contain guidance documents that the staff relied upon in making their determinations. I believe they are posted already to the website.
These are not yet.
Not yet, but they will be.
Will be.
The current documents that we're relying on have to be posted. Upon your motion approving these, those would also be posted as guidance for the staff to follow.
Okay. So the motion is to allow floatable rolling docks
Floatable or
or rolling.
rolling. The option is the rolling part now that we never had in the
Yeah.
past.
I know they're used
Without
by-
flotation. for rolling.
I know they're used extensively in Barlow. All right, so we do the resolution to.
A motion, just a motion.
Just
Do the motion?
Yes.
Okay. To amend the.
Can it be as simple as adopting a modified dock configuration?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Specification sheet, something along that.
Motion to adopt the modification of the dock specifications. Oh, she has that. Tom? The motion, do I have a second? Motion.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Snover?
Okay, Mr. Stover, Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Hayes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Like if there's any questions.
Not at this time. We'll see at the September meeting if we're still talking there. So. Okay. Any board member, I'd like to take a moment here to go on record. I would have liked to have done this to Ms. Wright officially, but thank her for her service to the district. All I can do is go on record thanking her for her, well, how many years, however many years she
Since 2008, I believe.
Okay, so five
Yeah,
years.
no,
No, 6.
Six years.
Two, six? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I get, make this 5.
All right.
Make that 7.
Any other questions or comments?
I have none.
Okay. All right, so at this point.
We can do the resolution
Do the
for the next
resolution for the
meeting.
next meeting.
Get that out.
And then get that out of the way, and then we can go into executive session for the litigation bargaining agreement again. All right, so I need a resolution for the next board meeting at Loudville on September 10th, I believe it
So moved.
is. All right, I have a motion, do I have a second?
No, second.
Mr. Finkel.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, at this point, I think we're going to executive session to discuss a litigation.
Right, and collective bargaining,
And the collective bargaining.
we can take action on the collective bargaining.
There will be action taken on the collective bargaining after the executive session. Or can we do it in executive? Probably better to do it in a reconvene.
Either way, it's gonna be in the minutes as an action of the board.
Yeah, we'll reconvene and do it as a board action. And I want to thank you guys for coming. There's not going to be much
Okay.
after this. All right, back in session, in the executive, regular session. All right, so the only business left is a resolution to accept or reject or to accept the CSEA contract negotiated by senior staff. I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
You need a motion on that?
Need a motion, yeah.
Need a motion, don't we? That we accept the contract as presented?
I need a second.
That one, make a second.
Tom, you want to make a second?
I'll second it.
So is Mr. Finkel, Mr. Hayes?
Yes, Mr. Finkel, Mr. Hayes.
Will you call for a roll call?
Yes, please.
Well,
Hold on. Any discussion?
yeah,
Discussion.
you know, unfortunately, you know, I think it's way above what the rest of the unions in the state have settled for. And it's not that people are undeserving, but I think it's so, I think it's dangerous for us to be out there, since we've just finally settled, you know, our financial issues. It's just the way I feel.
Right, I agree.
agree too.
If we can negotiate it and get it back in line with some of the other CSEA contracts.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussion?
I have none.
So we'll do a roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. David Bergstresser.
No.
Albert Hayes.
No.
Mark Finkel.
No.
Thomas Dover.
No.
4 noes. The motion does not pass.
All right. All right. Way the world. All right, so I need a motion. Any other business? Need a motion to adjourn?
So we.
Mr. Finkel.
It's his motion.
Mr. Stover.
All in favor?
Aye.
12:47.
Thanks, guys. Interesting meeting.